Welcome to Retailistic, the official podcast of Coresight Research for April 28, 2026. This week, CEO Deborah Weinswig welcomes Will Reeves, founder and CEO of Fold, to talk about the economic forces challenging U.S. households and the role that alternative finance tools can play in securing the promise of the American dream. But before we hear from Will, Dana is here to share about our exciting feature report for this week.
Thanks, Philip. This week at Coresight Research, we're spotlighting powerful reports every executive should have on their radar. This includes what's really driving today's grocery shopper and how should retailers respond. Our feature report this week answers these critical questions. Why are customers visiting stores more often but buying less? How is price perception reshaping brand choices? And what role will e-commerce and private label play going forward? If you're making decisions on pricing, promotions, or channel strategy, this analysis helps you understand where consumer behavior is heading and how to stay ahead.
Thanks, Dana. And now here's Deborah and Will.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today at Retailistic. We're very excited to have you. Maybe just start with a little bit about your philosophy around technology and how that relates to the consumer.
Well, it's good to be here, Deborah. Thanks for inviting me. I've been building technology specifically for consumers for a decade plus in Silicon Valley, now here out in Arizona. And I've built it in many contexts. I built it at, large FANG stock companies. I built it at very small 2-3 person startups. I currently run a company called Fold. All of them provide a different lens or answer to that, because the reality is technology is an amoral tool. It is something that can be used for really many applications and for many ends. And one piece of technology can be used for two completely opposite outcomes. And so for myself, what I've always been inspired by are the builders that choose to leverage technology to empower people to live better, longer, healthier, more meaningful lives. And I think that is really the opportunity that technology provides, although it's plainly clear that technology can also do the exact opposite of that. And so I love, really, in terms of a philosophical standpoint, it is much less out of the ether and very much on the ground. Who's building it and for what end and what's the outcome? And personally, I've always been attracted to those that have a direct effect on introducing new ways to prosper for humanity.
That's the big mission. My background is also financial services. And so I saw many inefficiencies during my time, but at its core, what inefficiency in, let's call it the traditional financial system, did Fold set out to solve? And why has that inefficiency persisted for so long? Or going back to our prior question, was it on the financial system side or was it on the consumer side?
Yeah. So I think generally when industries lack competition or have very little competition, so it more resembles a cartel where there's very limited participants there and they're also coordinating. I think that has really led to a financial system that's primarily based on extraction. How can we harvest value from our end customers the best? And if you look at financial services, it's really pretty much all geared to that in really two important ways. Number one, the traditional financial world has slowly turned into a system where at every level, whether that is from your hard-earned paycheck coming into your deposit account and the interest that earns or lack thereof, to the rewards you're earning on your purchase, to the interest rates in fine print on buying a home or getting a loan to start a business, all of these have led to very extractive and predatory products for people. Now they're still used. How we can say that, but we can still say, hey, but they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And that's because two things. People can handle a lot and tolerate a lot, but also at the same time, these are important tools. There's no doubt that financial services are required, even if they are extractive in many ways. And so what Fold has endeavored to do is look at the entire banking stack and look at how can the company, instead of extracting from our customers, how can we grow with them? The more that they prosper, we prosper. And the more they prosper means that we have to do a very good job at pushing as much of the economic value of their activities back to them instead of extracting it to us. And the proof here is, Fold has built a financial services company that allows people to earn and hold dollars and Bitcoin in the same place. Every activity, whether you're paying a bill, a credit card, a debit card, earns rewards. You can split your paycheck between Bitcoin and dollars seamlessly. You can participate at our merchant partners, Uber, Amazon, Starbucks, and get increased rewards and build savings passively at every step of the way. And our customers, live in a world where all the headlines are about home ownership is impossible, are about people are putting off starting a family because it's too expensive. They're putting off, hey, starting a business because it's too risky. They're putting off staying in a job that they don't love, but they feel tied to. But our customers at Fold, those customers have earned over $70 million in rewards since starting. They are starting families at a higher rate. They are generally more optimistic about their future. They're accessing home ownership. They are starting businesses or growing their businesses. And what we see is a stark contrast between what the world's headlines are today in the world that our customers are living in today. They're two different worlds. And the basis of that is not because our customers are working harder or smarter. It's because their money is working harder for them. When you remove the extraction of the banking and financial system off of consumers, they tend to flourish because they are retaining the profits. And that is the vision that we believe in, is to continue to scale that, to have more people reach a point where starting a family is the obvious move, or accessing home ownership, or starting a business are not seen as things that delay their life or are unsustainable, but are things that fuel their life.
What is the financial literacy of your customers? And so that's part one. And then is there an education that you're also helping them with kind of like over time? Do you see them change either behavior based on knowledge, or is the behavior changing based on outcome, or both?
Both. So that's a question of where we are in the timeline on an individual user's journey. It starts with education, then it moves to skin in the game, and then it moves to a period of low time preference and letting time in the market do its work, and then realizing, wow, I made the right choice. That journey can take years, and Fold has been in business since before 2019, and so we've seen our customers go through this journey, and generally our customers are higher income, some call them maybe Henrys. They not quite rich yet, but definitely have a higher income, or at least a mindset to save. They are financially literate. They are very smart about their finances in almost all respects. They have a low time preference and save a significant amount of money. And so really the Fold platform helps both sides of this. Those that already have their resolve and have seen that their actions and their usage of our Fold's tools help them get ahead of life. And there's also those starting their journey that are still in the educational stage, or still just getting a bit of skin in the game, or maybe scared of the volatility because they just started on their journey. But that really is just a recognition of where they are in their financial journey. But generally those who are saving in Bitcoin, remember, our customers are getting paid, they're paying their bills, they're managing their family finances. They are not trading meme coins or altcoins or cryptos. They're not trading NFTs. And in fact, they don't care about that. What they care about is a serious financial platform that accommodates Bitcoin, because they're making their rational decision that Bitcoin should play an important role in building the long-term savings of themselves. And that's what Fold aims to help do, not just for them, but for the 99% of the world who's not doing that today.
It's a really interesting point. I mean, as I think about it, going back to my banking days, right, you've got two different regulatory frameworks, right, between traditional financial services and, call it, crypto. How does that, not to get too in the weeds, although I'm a weeds person, but can you help us untangle that a bit?
Well, the financial system is just about the most regulated of all the industries out there. Maybe health and medicine is another. But needless to say, there are rules for absolutely everything. And when a new technology like Bitcoin that does things that the existing banking system cannot do, there is no way for you to exit the banking system with fiat money. With Bitcoin, you can exit into self-custody that only relies on your own self. That is an impossibility in the fiat banking system. That's the first. Number two, there's an auditability and transparency that is orders of magnitude higher than the traditional banking system. And that is because the traditional banking system is really a place to deposit money. But more than anything than that, it's a place to trust where you deposit your money. You need to trust these people. And the companies that hold trust are the ones that get more deposits. And that's why we see these old, larger institutional names from a long time ago really dominating the banking sector. And that is because they've been around and that has built trust. We call that their Lindy. At the same time, Bitcoin comes and says one way to build trust is to generally be a good guy for decades on end and generally have an okay track record. That's one way to build trust. It's subjective and it's not necessarily represents that you should trust them in the future, but in the past, maybe. Bitcoin brings cryptographic proof and auditability that you don't need to see that the institution has been around for a long time. It is cryptographically can be proven not just by you, but by anybody and not just by the bank. So that's another benefit that Bitcoin brings that the traditional financial system just cannot. A trust, not based on personalities and relationships, but on cryptographic proof is a huge breakthrough. The third is I can send and use my money 24/7. There are no blocks, there are no holds, you have complete control. And so between bringing a better level of exit to self-custody, a higher level of trust and auditability, and a higher uptime and accessibility makes Bitcoin as a feature set superior in many ways to fiat banking. But if you get to the very last point that is the difference is that there is no central point of failure with Bitcoin. It is a global operating system distributed amongst the world. And so now your distributed risk that's counterbalanced across global acts versus regional. Regional is far more volatile. You go to the Strait of Hormuz, 4 years ago, you could sail on through very easily. You now go through it now and you might get shot at. Regional instability destabilizes things. When you are globally mapped in a mesh, you are counterbalanced by the global activity overall versus a single point of failure. And Bitcoin across all of those creates a very incredible system to start growing a new financial system. But that doesn't necessarily have fit into the same categories of our compliance and legal structures that we have today. And so we've seen over the past, especially 2 years, how does the existing system want to bring in Bitcoin? And how does Bitcoin want to bring in the existing system? And we are seeing that play out in real time. What's represented by that is you have traditional giants like BlackRock, Fidelity, Morgan Stanley offering Bitcoin products that are the most successful products ever launched by those companies. They're Bitcoin wrapped products. And then you have in Bitcoin creating in a protocol way the services that a bank might offer, but they're not necessarily regulated or seen in the same way. And so you're seeing a Bitcoin version of banking grow, and you are seeing traditional version of banking that uses Bitcoin grow. And we're going to see this accelerate over the next few years very rapidly because ultimately they both serve different audiences, but the compliance and legal framework is going to have to continue to evolve, although it's made a ton of progress recently.
So you said something important, right? This idea around kind of the globality of financial services. And so, some of the challenges end up being, right, FX or, foreign exchange fees. One of the areas that Bitcoin, let's just say, removes is that friction. How are you seeing that play out? And how important is that to either the banking system or to your customers?
Well, to the banking system as is, Bitcoin threatens really a lot of the fundamental points of banking because it tends to evaporate margin because Bitcoin removes middlemen and middlemen create margin. So when you're talking about a transaction with Bitcoin over cross borders, there's no middleman. It can go from point A to point B without settling in any regional bank. In a fiat FX transaction, it's hitting sometimes 3 to 4 banks in a single one, and all those banks are going to get their cut. That case study is true almost about every bank service a bank offers. A good example of this is Fold offers rewards on when you spend on your credit card, not in airline miles, not in cashback, but in Bitcoin. Bitcoin has increased roughly 30% compounded annual growth over its 200 daily moving average forever. And what customers get is a reward that when they earn it cannot be devalued and has historically appreciated. But when you look at the balance sheets of every major airline in the US and every major bank in the US, you see a huge line item related to rewards. And that's because banks buy rewards from airlines at a deep discount, sometimes 50 to 200% below what they're actually sold to customers for. Then they market huge top line rates, 5% back, 6% back. But really, in the actual redemption of it, you are losing value along the way. So your real return is about 1%. But the whole system is very profitable because of that smoke and mirrors, that they can not only give you a reward that they bought for 50% under value, but then even when you have that reward, they can devalue that reward further. And on average, airline mile programs have been devalued about 10 to 20% per year. Significant, so much so that the federal government has put them under investigation for malpractice when it comes to devaluing rewards programs. So Bitcoin comes in and says, number one, once we give this to you, we can't devalue it. So it protects against that. And two, we can't sell it to you below spot and play these smoke and mirrors games. Bitcoin tends to really be transparent about, who's winning and who's taking a cut at every side. And so when we think about it, whether it's FX, whether it's rewards, whether it's deposits, whether it's lending, Bitcoin threatens a very fundamental aspect of fiat banking. And what we're seeing right now is fiat banking's looking at how can we make money on Bitcoin and offer new services. And that's going to disrupt themselves in some ways and create new value for consumers, which is good. But at the same time, you're having Bitcoin native versions of traditional finance pop up that don't rely on any of the traditional financial system. And so it's just a whole changing of the guard because the incentives and the tools have fundamentally changed.
So when you think about rewards, right there, if you think about the move from cash to credit, et cetera, right, a lot of that was driven by these rewards schemes, if you will. Do you think that in a world where customers understand the value of Bitcoin and Bitcoin rewards, that this changes more fundamentally?
I firmly believe that Bitcoin will become the dominant reward for U.S. consumers over the next 5 to 6 years. Already today, it is gaining incredible market share. Our own Bitcoin rewards product, we created this category back in 2019, and we have seen it absolutely skyrocket. And consumers are going to realize it. Not only because of Bitcoin, I believe Bitcoin will continue to is still very early in its growth trajectory, but the existing options are self-imploding. Airlines and banks are devaluing not only the value of the reward given, but the experience of the reward given. You go into any new Amex lounge and you're going to be waiting outside for 40 minutes just to get inside for some, unheated, food that's sitting under a light for 6 hours. The bottom is falling out of that system. And the way to encapsulate this is that Fold has given away $70 million in Bitcoin rewards to our customers. Had we given cash back instead, had we given them just dollars, we would have only given away 20 million. The value of what we given away would only have been 20 million. Had we given away airline miles, the value we would have given away under 10 million. And so you're seeing that 99% of the world is operating in that, only getting $20 to $5 million of value versus a Fold customer earning 70 million. And this led to a very strange thing, that as our customers were earning over time, they had more value in their rewards accounts than they had in their savings accounts that they've been building for years. And that's the power of Bitcoin, just in the context of rewards. Now we can apply that across the stack to converting your paycheck into Bitcoin, a piece of it. We just launched a Bitcoin bonus program with one of the oldest fast food chains in the country, where their employees are earning Bitcoin bonuses for every hour they work as a retention tool. Bitcoin's going to totally take the rewards market. And we're seeing the momentum today, and it's going to continue to accelerate.
So if we think about the kind of where we are right now, and you kind of looked out 5 years, can we just look out 12 months? And how do you see, right, for those of us in retail, right, we've got holiday around the corner. How do you see maybe your more average consumer rethinking how they pay for things, what they expect from, right? Because many retailers have rewards programs, and there's consumers will change where they shop and how they shop based on those. So if you can just kind of help us understand, because I think that may help, some of the retailers and brands who are listening to this think differently about what they should do in, let's say, the near, medium, and long term.
Yeah, I think a few ways. Number one, rewards undoubtedly has become one of the most powerful tools to change behavior when it comes to financial activities ever invented. So much so that rewards were created to differentiate credit card programs, but ultimately the rewards became the product, not the credit card necessarily. The credit card is a commodity. Anyone can get a credit card. Now it's all about the rewards. What's the structure? What's the bonus? What's the categories? All of that. That is the product that's being sold now. And Fold believes that that is true, and it can change behavior towards one that rewards, true rewards, that also gives a great credit experience. And so I would say that the understanding for retailers coming up is that to acknowledge the world that we're in right now. We are in as what's been termed a K-shaped economy, where we are at the barbells at the two extremes. Most of the spending, the consumer spending that is happening right now, is happening from well-to-do, higher end, those on the right side who are keeping up and ahead and still spending a lot. Everything below is spending a lot less. And if they are spending, it's only going to the most discounted, most ruthlessly cutthroat discount opportunities out there. But if you look at it, luxury and all these things are still going up on everything on that side. So understand where your business is in the K-shaped economy. Who are your customers? The middle is gone. Now you have two sides of the spectrum that's really powering the economy today. And rewards are one way to signal to either end. Bitcoin is a reward that appeals to both sides of the spectrum. It tends to be a premium product. Bitcoin investors tend to be higher income, lots of savings, higher net worth. Historically, they have completely outpaced their peers in terms of savings rates, purchasing power, nearly everything. They are active consumers. And so exploring how you can offer Bitcoin as a way that maybe you don't care as a business, but you want to attract their business of people with Bitcoin who have a lot of discretionary money. That is a great strategy. And you should do that whether you care about Bitcoin or not. You should do that because you want to build a good business. So I would really look at, understand we're in a K-shaped economy. What product are you offering, and on what side is it offering it to? And how can we market to the extremes? And rewards is one great way to do it. But it's a mistake to believe that we are in the world we were during COVID, or even before that, where there was a stronger center. That center is bottomed out very significantly. Even today, I believe consumer sentiment came out as absolute record lows based on continued issues with inflation and what's going on in the world.
No, I think you bring up some very interesting points. I mean, we've always had this idea around kind of an hourglass and, right, this continuous thinning of the middle. And, after a while, right, there just kind of is very little middle. And I feel that if we take a step back and almost look at this holistically, how do you think about this, let's just say the bottom part of the hourglass? And from a Bitcoin perspective, how can we elevate them to participate in the economy more? And then ultimately, I mean, we can all say what we want and think what we want about kind of the measuring consumer confidence, but ultimately, I don't think that having kind of a barbell really works. And so I think everyone needs to participate and feel like they can participate. Maybe just kind of walk me through your thought process there, because I think this conversation has made me at least rethink maybe some of the opportunities.
Yeah. So unfortunately, asking why the center has bottomed out and where has the center gone is going to be grappling with the hard realities of our world today. Number one, inflation has been persistent and higher than even reported. If you look at the way inflation has been measured, it has been changed multiple times, even over the last 10 years. All of those changes have the effect of lowering the perceived inflation, even though real inflation is higher. They'll remove entire categories from the calculation to at least say inflation is down or under control. So the reality is that people's savings are being rapidly inflated away. And that was accelerated under COVID, where more money, more US dollars were printed during COVID than in the history of the United States in a single fell swoop. And so what happened is that the middle class, who relies on a fair and balanced economic policy, they do not tend to have a ton of money in their assets. They also they are also not getting government subsidized help. So they're really at this very hard point where inflation hits them really hard. Inflation's not only hitting them, you're also getting mass layoffs tied to either AI anxiety or fears or replacement. That will accelerate. You're also having instability around the world, not only that is very volatile in terms of the markets, but also everyday goods and services. Today, oil is now much more expensive than it ever was. Yesterday, it was your timber. If you can remember, there was a whole wood, commodity shortage going on. All of these things mean the middle class gets the hardest. And what that means when they get hit, they either move onto one side or the other of that hourglass. And so resolving that is not a matter of motivating middle class to spend. Unfortunately, it's about giving that group new tools, or the world new tools in which to use, or a new perspective on how to see things. A lot of the tried and true kind of maxims of financial literacy don't really work as well anymore. You have the idea of the 60-40 portfolio, or the pension that you can rely on, or that the down payment is only going to represent 20% of your annual paycheck instead of 40% or 60%, which it is today. All of these metrics are wrong, which means our tools need to be different and our perspective needs to be different. And I believe we're just at an uncomfortable uncomfortable moment where we are going through that learning period, and these new tools will proliferate. And I founded Fold because I believe that Bitcoin provided one of the most unique opportunities for anyone in the world to participate in a growing global economy that will preserve their savings over the long haul and increase their purchasing power, so that they make sure that they are not being pushed to the left side of the hourglass. And Bitcoin, unlike any of these global revolutions that happen, no single person is benefiting off of the growth of AI. Those stocks are held very privately, only in secondaries. You can't get the benefit of the current acceleration in AI. There's no way for an average person to get access to that. But Bitcoin, from its very day one, that anyone in the world who understands its value proposition can get along for the ride in investing in it, which is an incredibly democratic proposition. And we believe that needed to be wrapped in a financial service that makes that feel understandable, legible, and safe. So no quick fix to that K-shaped economy without, number one, cultural and behavioral changes, but also fundamental economic changes. And we're unfortunately just at the time where we have to go through that pain. We are going to go through that. We are in that pain right now. And now is about how fast we get new tools and new thinking.
So I have one more question before we hit our lightning round. When you founded Fold in 2019, obviously there's been a very dynamic environment, but if you were to kind of just sit back and think about it, what's been the most different? And then how has Fold evolved to maybe solve for that?
Well, I mean, if you asked me, 2019 is before COVID, so it's that I believe is a seminal before and after moment in the world. So the entire world has changed. But at the same time, the function that Bitcoin plays, the value proposition that Bitcoin offers, I knew was strong in a pre-COVID world after 2008 financial crisis and other things. Bitcoin's value prop was strong then. It's even stronger now. Now the world is really pulling back from a kind of globalist mindset more to kind of regional collaboration. Bitcoin remains a protocol that still enables everyone to be connected globally on a financial system, at least as an alternative to the regional one that they operate in, which that exit has never existed before until And I think the economy has changed. The way people get work has changed. I think we can even look at, from a health perspective, and has like almost everything has changed. And so I think the only thing that I come out with is that I have a stronger belief in the power of what Bitcoin can do for this world, even though I've started building it for a different world.
No, it's really interesting to think about it. I mean, we had a call earlier today, and it was people in the retail industry, but we ended up spending about half of it talking about, right, GLP-1 and the impact that's had, right? So you think about, that's just like one sliver of healthcare
Yep.
and the impact that's had and will continue to. So I can't even imagine, like, when you take a step back, what that looks like. All right, so this is my favorite part of this, is we have 10 questions. You can pass on any of them, but just kind of say what comes first to your mind, and we'll have fun with it. So
All right.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been uplifting in many ways, and it's kind of where I've always thought technology could play in our world, and to see you doing that is fantastic. So thank you for joining us, and let's jump into it. All right, Bitcoin in one word.
Freedom.
Biggest risk to crypto adoption.
Biggest risk to crypto adoption is, I think, continued bad actors that take advantage of the space.
Most overrated trend in fintech.
Of the everything on credit, buy now, pay later on your DoorDash, all the way up to a new car. Too much.
Most underrated behavior among consumers.
Old-fashioned saving. Live below your means and save money.
Regulation, necessary evil, or competitive moat.
Both at once, all the time.
Payments or savings, which matters more long term?
Savings ultimately matters longer.
One company outside of crypto you admire.
Costco. $1.50 hot dog, despite continuous inflation for the last 25 years, still holding strong.
What would surprise people most about your user base?
People think people into crypto are crypto bros, trading, speculating, doing poor financial decisions. We have the most financially savvy, longest term thinkers and savers, families, building families, businesses, and great lives.
Full case for Bitcoin in one sentence.
Bitcoin to $1 million. Because the world does not change.
And then what keeps you up at night? Last question.
I'm about to welcome my second kid into the world in a couple weeks. So that's right now, that's what's on my mind.
I can only imagine. Well, first of all, congratulations on your second arriving soon. And thanks for joining us and really taking the time to explain some of the nuances, which are often, I think, difficult. And I think putting it into very simple and plain language, but with the backdrop of the financial services industry, we really appreciate. We hope to have you on again soon. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks, Deborah. And thank you for joining us this week. Coresight Research serves the retail community with time-sensitive research on consumer shopping behavior, retail technology innovation, financial outlooks for industry leaders, and trends across every retail vertical. We also facilitate leadership communities, conduct seminars and conferences, provide strategic consulting, conduct technology assessments, and develop proprietary data resources. Visit us at Coresight.com to learn about all the ways we can support your success. Have a wonderful week.